Good afternoon and welcome to Transition Talks Tuesdays. Transition Talks Tuesdays is a part of the Wisconsin Youth Health Transition Initiative. We're out of the Waisman Center, University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. And this is our opportunity to dig a little deeper into transition with some of our key partners. And I was reviewing, we've been doing Transition Talks Tuesdays for about 3 years, and I don't know if I've ever had my good friend and colleague Cheri on for Transition Talks Tuesdays. I know we've done conversations with showing up for kids when we used to do that, and we've done various other things. But I'm really excited to welcome in my friend Cheri Sylla. And she is with the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative, WSPEI, which from now on shall be called WSPE, so that we do not have to say Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative the entire time. Feel free. Totally understand, but it does stand. That's what WSPE stands for. They are all about partnerships, helping families, school districts find resources to build positive working relationships, leading to shared decision making. All these things that, as a family member, I'm like, yes, go WSPE. That is exactly what we need with our schools. Thank you so much for doing that. But today, Cheri, the question that we have to ask is, how does WSPE support youth moving into adulthood and their families? Because we know transition is not a solo activity, it is a team activity. So, how does WSPE help those families and those youth?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that question. And so I've prepared a PowerPoint that kind of gives everyone kind of a brief overview of who WSPE is. And then I have some of those, I've developed some scenarios to kind of answer that question. How does WSPE support families and youth going through that transition planning process?
That sounds fantastic. And just so you know, my Zoom seems to be lagging it today. So that sounds really good, Cheri. We look forward to it. And please feel free to put questions in the chat. Can people interrupt you with any questions, or would you like them to hold off to the end? And somehow you got muted. That might have been me. So feel free to unmute and go ahead. My Zoom again is just being really, really kind of weird. Let me see what I can do to help.
Okay.
Yes, that is much.
Yes.
Yay, success. Go for it.
Something happened when I shared my screen and it muted me and it said that I couldn't it took it off. So, I don't know what was going on there, but at any rate, people are more than welcome to raise their hand or put a question in the chat or unmute and ask a question as we're going through today. So I've prepared a few slides just to give people an overview of who WSPE is, the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative, and then I have some scenarios that I created to answer that question: how does WSPE support families and youth? Because there are so many different ways that that can be done. So, presenter Cheri Sylla was WSPE Statewide Family Engagement Coaching Coordinator. Just a little background about me: I have been with the WSPE program for over 22 years. I am stationed or operate out of the CISA 1 area, which is Pewaukee, just outside of Milwaukee. Um, and initially working just in southeastern Wisconsin, and now I work on a statewide basis. I am the parent. My husband and I have four boys. They're four adult sons, and my son Eric, who brought me into the world of special education, is now 35 years old. And is very happy and enjoyable. He works part time at Marshall's department store. He's done that for over 12 and a half years with a job coach. And he also has day programming kind of mixed in, plus other activities as well. And he still lives at home here with my husband and I. He has an intellectual disability, moderate, so about a 5, 6-year-old level. Um, and at one time, as a parent, my husband and I, we were told that we should not focus on employment for Eric, that day programming was all he was going to be capable of, that he wasn't capable of working. And that experience in itself helped me and really catapulted me into the area of transition planning, that this is where my heart really lies, because I don't ever want to hear anyone saying a student or a youth can't do something. And because I believe until the student shows us or tells us that they're not interested in doing something, it's up to us as adults to always leave that door open to dream wide and big, because I believe the possibilities are endless. So that's my story, and that's where I come from, and it's all due to having a wonderful son who has taught me all those experiences and all those lessons. I have my contact information here too, so feel free afterwards if you want to reach out. That would be great. So WSPEI is uh, we have staff all over the state of Wisconsin. So on the screen here, you'll see that there's a map of the state of Wisconsin with all 12 CISAs listed. So I'm located where it says Brookfield, CISA 1 in that little yellow area, but I cover the entire state as a coaching coordinator. But we have staff in throughout the rest of the state as well. So I've included the WSPEI contact information that goes out to our DPI or our WSPEI website. And you have a little map here that shows where each one of our staff members are located. So they work in different parts of the state. And you can easily put in a let's say Abbotsford, and we'll show it right there. And when you click on that, it'll say Heidi Lehman is our CISA 10 coordinator. So this is meant to help educators as well as family members kind of figure out who's located where. And then down below here, you'll see all of the information of all of our coordinators across the state. Also, Rita Fuller is our DPI director of our program, of the WSPEI program. She's listed here as well. But we have a crew of people that work in the capacity of a family school partnership coordinator, that much of the work that I'm going to share with you as far as what WSPEI does is done by our staff. Some of our staff members cover 2 CISAs. So Robin Morris, you'll see, covers CISAs 5 and 6. We have Sarah, who covers CISAs 7 and 8. Heidi covers CISAs 9 and 10, and Steph Lulich covers 11 and 12. And then our lower CISAs 1, 2, 3, 4, have a single coordinator. So just wanted to point that out, that that's how you would reach a WSPEI coordinator if you needed help or assistance. And then we also have a listing of schools by district located on this as well. Tim already talked about our vision, that it is about each and every family and school community having those beliefs and capabilities and connections and confidence to communicate effectively and meaningfully, and to partner to improve systems that ensure student success in all aspects of life. And so, and when we say each and every family, we mean each and every family. And our mission is very simple. It's all about developing those strong relationships that lead to effective partnerships. We don't have a choice. As parents of children with disabilities, I didn't get to choose the teacher that was going to be Eric's case manager, but I did have to learn and made a choice that I had to commit to working with the staff that were assigned to Eric. Whether I liked it or not, we were a team. And as a team, we needed to work together. And so that mission in developing those strong relationships were key to the success that my child had through school. And when relationships weren't strong, for instance, the teacher who said, don't, she did an evaluation, a vocational evaluation on Eric and said, Eric will not be able to work and you should focus on day programming. I did not, number one, want a relationship with her. And I knew she didn't need to be part of our team if that's the attitude she had. So relationships are key. And that's really why I believe in the work of what our WSPEI program does. So I have the WSPEI website out here as well. And I will refer to a couple of the handouts and things like that when I talk about the scenarios that we oftentimes get from families about transition planning. And so just wanted to call your attention to our website and that there's a lot of information on this website that you can access. You'll see that that first little picture that we had here is WSPEI has been around for 25 years. So the Department of Public Instruction determined in August of 2000 that they were going to set money aside, IDEA, special ed dollars aside every year for family engagement. And that started in August of 2025. So it's been not 2025, 2020, 2000. So it's been 25 years. I'm getting all flustered here. So just wanted to point that out. You'll see on our website, we have information on about WSPEI and the work that we do, news and events. We have a calendar of workshops and things like that, as well as a monthly newsletter. If parents have a request for IEP support, we have a simple request form up here. And then also right at the very top, people can register for trainings, and that'll be a drop down and that'll allow you to do that. We've got lots of different resources, especially under IEP resources in English as well as Spanish. We have transition planning resources, which I'll feature some of those in a few minutes. Learning opportunities for families and community members and educators, as well as networks and communities and book discussions. We also have additional information for educators. And then we have a district family engagement liaison program where the special ed director identifies a parent to be trained as their district family engagement liaison. So right now we have over 70 parents that have been through this training across the state of Wisconsin that are a local district family engagement liaison. So in a nutshell, that's just a brief overview. And if you are not already signed up, we have our newsletter sign up. And so it's just off to the left here of the screen. And you can sign up and we'll send you our monthly email newsletter, as well as any other special information coming from the Department of Public Instruction. So that's WSPEI in a nutshell. And this slide here really sets the stage for what WSPEI does. So WSPEI believes in building the efficacy of families. We know families come to the table, whether it's the IEP table or if it's time to do that transition planning and you're developing the post-secondary transition plan, families come to the table with what oftentimes is perceived at a disadvantage. We don't necessarily have all the understanding and the knowledge and the skills to navigate this. And so one of the things that WSPEI works to do is to build, number one, the cognition in families, that we emphasize that, as I said before, the belief that anyone can do anything if we give them an opportunity. We also work on building connections for families because, as we know, in the transition planning process, it's all about not only preparing students for that transition to the adult world. It's preparing families to be there to support their youth and their young adults as they transition into the adult world. So it's really important that we help families build the networks that they need in order to have some support. The support isn't the same, of course, once we move to the adult world, but to build those connections. We want to also make sure that we're always building the capabilities of families and building their knowledge of the transition planning process and the terminology and the changes. Suddenly, when we're in transition planning mode, as we're preparing to go to the adult world, suddenly families are noticing that um, things are changing and changing rapidly. And for the longest time, we've been sitting in these IEP meetings, and oftentimes the educators have been kind of driving the work in many respects. And we've gotten a chance to just sit back and be participants in those meetings and not so much having to know what to do and what comes next. But we all know, those of us who have gone through the transition planning process and have entered the world of the adult world, that suddenly we need, as parents, we need to be knowledgeable and to be able to coordinate and to understand how all of these different agencies and parties, partners, all come together in order to support this young person with a disability. So we need to build that knowledge of families. And that's one thing that we do as well. And then confidence. Oh, families sometimes don't feel confident and feel overwhelmed by the amount of work, especially when children are 17 going on 18 and entering that adult world. It can feel very overwhelming. And so one of the things we do as a grant is to help families, number one, kind of step by step see the big picture, but also kind of develop a plan as far as what do we need to do first, and take things step by step and make it more manageable so that they can feel more confident and they can build their self-efficacy as far as, I can do this, I know I can do it, I know I can be there for my son or daughter as they're making this transition. And so building the confidence in families is another key goal of our work as we support families and youth. All right. I did include a couple of slides because one of the things, slides on services and supports to schools and educators. Because WSPEI, while I talked on the other slide about building the efficacy of families, we also look to build the efficacy of educators, and in the way of making sure educators feel more confident and have the capabilities to partner with families. And oftentimes our educators don't always have the tools or the strategies in which to do so. And so WSPEI often provides services to schools and educators that include some of these things on the screen, like generating ideas to engage families in their child's IEP, the supports and accommodations and learning at home. In this instance, it would be generating ideas about transition planning activities for families. We provide technical assistance and support to connect families to not necessarily students learning, but to services and supports. um, we assist with the development of advisory groups. So one way that I have personally assisted, and my colleagues as well, is developing special ed advisory groups that on a local level help to support families and youth in that transition planning process, because it's not just me, an outsider, helping a family through that process, but actually building those connections. Remember, we talked about building connections for families. It's really important that that family to family connection, and having another family say, my child went to the same school district, and this is how we navigated that transition planning process. So we work with school districts to develop that as well. Um, And so we can provide educators resources on including families and engaging families. We provide one-on-one consultations. I've had educators give me a call and ask about particular situations and looking for resources. We can support family activities like transition resource fairs and workshops and things like that as a way to build the efficacy of school staff to support families in the transition planning process. And then also developing staff development materials. So we do staff development as well. What's most important in this conversation is what can WSPEI do for families? And so we prepare families for IEP meetings, and that's including the development of the post-secondary transition plan. Um, I find oftentimes families come to us and their child is in high school and they provide us the IEP and we talk through the IEP. And then when I ask the question, do you have your son or daughter's PTP, post secondary transition plan? And they say, what? Haven't heard of that. And so I describe what's in it and they still haven't seen it. So, just that first step of making parents aware, making sure that they're aware that there is a PTP that talks about planning for after high school is really key. But some of our coordinators do attend IEP meetings if it is needed and warranted, because some of our families, their confidence levels and their abilities, they feel that they don't have them. So on occasion, we will attend an IEP meeting to support a family as well as the educators. Oftentimes, we find ourselves supporting the educators in those meetings in regard to um, the transition planning process, as well as IEPs. We provide one-to-one consultations for families. And what does that look like? That looks like I've done situations where I've sat down with a parent and we've walked through the PTP, the post secondary transition plan application, which is a paper copy, and just talked about um, what they know about their child and help them fill it out. I also have a couple of other items that I'm going to share with you in one of the scenarios that I find help families, number one, begin to dream about what the possibilities are for their child, but also then to also take stock of where their child is at right now, what their child's interests, strengths, preferences, and needs are, and looking at, so what level of support as a family could you provide your child? There are so many different things that I've learned from families in that one-on-one consultation to learn about what their family culture and life and values are and how that feeds in and incorporate and can be incorporated into the planning of the post-secondary transition plan. We connect families to other agencies and programs. We do workshops and other learning opportunities for families. And then I also called out our Families as Partners is one such series where it's a training program for families to learn about how can I more effectively partner and work with my child's IEP team in school. And then finally, we provide support to families and the school in regard to opening up communication lines. And what's really unique about WSPEI compared to maybe some of the other parent organizations and agencies in the state of Wisconsin is that each one of our coordinators are hired by their local CISA. And as a result of being connected with your CISA, we have a direct connection to school districts in the area. And as a result of that, we have relationships with staff, special ed directors, and other administrators and educators. And after years of working in the area, we get to know about the local policies and the local cultures and things that maybe some of our other agency partners around the state don't have that in. And so that's what I find really cool, because when I talk to a coordinator about a parent phone call in another part of the state, they're like, oh, well, I can tell you this is the history or this is what's going on. And it's helpful to have that local ear to the ground as to, what's being talked about, what's going on, what does a parent need to know about navigating that system. So that's, I think, one of the cool things about WSPEI. And then also those connections to other families and organizations. We provide opportunities for families to participate in their child's development and educational learning. And the last bullet, just making sure families know that if you disagree with a decision of the school, there are options such as mediation, facilitated IEPs, IDEA complaints, and due process hearings. So we help families navigate that as well. All right, that's WSPEI in less than 27 minutes. Okay. So now I developed these scenarios just to kind of get things going. And then I would welcome any questions from anybody who's in the audience listening here. If they have other scenarios that we would want to talk about, I'd love to have that ability to do that. So my first scenario is a parent has questions about what does transition planning mean? And I've had this question over the 22 years, probably once or twice a year, especially a parent who isn't quite there yet, but has heard this word transition planning. What the heck is that? Because when we think about transition planning, it conjures up all sorts of different things, right? So when I get that question, one of the first things I go to, and I deliberately put links in here because I wanted you all to have resources that when you leave today, you'll have something to take with you. So our Transition Improvement Grant, also known as TIG, puts together some nice family guidance documents. And the first one I have here is the Family's Guide to Post-Secondary Transition Planning. And this just gives a really, really brief overview for the family on the front side, and on the back side, it's for the student. So it's the parent and student guide. It comes in both English and Spanish, and it just gives you a high level. What is that PTP? How will the PTP be used during an IEP meeting to create a transition goal? And then down below here, how can you be a valuable member in the transition planning process? And so they link in here the Wisconsin Transition app as one of the options for them to start thinking about who their child is, do some prep work before that IEP meeting. So that's one of the resources I use when I get that question. I also take families out to this great webpage called before18.org. And what's really cool about this is it's all about transition planning. And so, like as it says here, the transition planning tool asks 5 questions to build a customized transition planning guide with tips and resources for you and your youth. That's so cool to do something like that, to personalize it. But also down below here, action steps for teens, actions, there should be an action steps for families. Why does this both say teens? I think that one's supposed to say families. So they got 2 action steps for teens, but the middle one is action steps for families. And what's really cool about this when I'm talking to a family is I tell them, you know what? Transition planning starts early on. It's not just at age 14 in the state of Wisconsin, it starts earlier. And there are action steps here that, depending upon the age of your child, you can start helping your child prepare for adulthood. And oftentimes, those early action steps are all about self determination and self advocacy, but also maybe career exploration and developing their interests. So there's some really cool resources. So this is someplace I take families to, and I kind of test and see whether or not this is working for them. Sometimes it's not. So then I go back to my toolbox and I say, well, okay, well, we have this transition resource guide. which is also on that before age 18 webpage, but it's /transition guide. And this is a really nice resource that was developed, probably, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And this is all about navigating that path to finish high school and becoming an adult. And so they have English, Spanish, and Hmong. And what's really cool is this resource not only has information for families in it, but it has information for students. And there are activities in here that students can do. So, depending upon the interest level of the student and what the family would like to do, sometimes I've taken families through this just to get them started so they can understand what we mean by the transition planning process. So, it's just a really easy introduction to it. And then sometimes, if families are interested, we offer workshops. So, a recipe for success transition planning using the PTP. That is a workshop we just did in September here, and it uses the analogy of making a pizza and how you start with the crust, which is the student, and you add the sauce, which is the transition assessment, and then you add different flavors of cheese because those are the partners in the transition planning process. And then you add toppings, which are transition services. And so we go through this analogy to kind of explain the transition planning process. What it looks like in schools is the development of that PTP and the conversations that occur around it. So, those are some of the resources that I thought of right away when I think about that basic question of a parent coming and saying, I don't have a clue what this means. So how can you help me understand? So that's one way. And that's one way that all WSPE coordinators help parents as well as youth kind of figure out that transition planning process. The next one is parent calls with a concern about the 18 to 21 transition program that the school is offering her young adult. It's a shorter program than the average school day, and she's not happy that they are not doing math and reading classes. This one is comes up a couple times a year, and usually at the beginning of the year or at the very end of a year as they're planning for next year, and families are hearing about, all right, my child is done with the school stuff and now moving into this 18 to 21-year-old program. What is this all about? And one of the things parents are most concerned about is that shorter day. And what I can tell you is there is no requirements for the day being as long from 8 a.m. to 3 o'clock or whatever the average school day is, 7:30 to 2:30. There are no requirements. So there's a lot of flexibility in what this looks like in school districts. So one of the resources I always share is the transition programming beyond 18. This is developed again by the Transition Improvement Grant. And this takes us through what this looks like, what the programming should and should not be, that type of thing. And my favorite section is to go to page 5, where they talk about the should be's and shouldn't be's of beyond 18 programming. And this is a place where I can have a conversation with a parent about what it should be and what it should look like and what it shouldn't be. And then they can take this information so I can coach them and work with them to identify, so what do they know already about the 18 to 21-year-old program? And what questions do you want to ask to learn more about what this looks like? So this is just a really nice resource that contains all sorts of information in here. It's in a Q&A format. And so depending upon where the parent's coming in at, I will go through the resource and make sure that they have a really good understanding of what it could be. I also, having had the experience of having a child, having gone through our 18 to 21-year-old program, this is another point in time where oftentimes I'll talk about the blending of resources. So for instance, typically an 18 to 21-year-old program will have maybe, well, definitely an independent living component, but oftentimes an employment component. And that's where having DVR help to support that employment planning component comes in. So I talk about with families how this could look, and that every program, I mean, every school district that offers the 18 to 21-year-old, well, they have to. They don't have a choice. If a student requires and needs programming for after the age of 18, you have to provide it. Okay. Um, so, but every school district does look different, just like every student's needs looks different. So just because one student might spend part of their day out in the community working at a job and then coming back to the program, it doesn't mean that that's how everybody's day looks like. It really should be very unique to the student's interests, preferences, strengths, and interests and needs. If you go to the very end, this is another helpful place where I like to give families a visual. So, what could a day look like? And so in the back of this resource, they have got a couple of student examples. And I love student examples because it really does show how a day could look like, and how some days, if you look at this one, Monday, the student isn't at school. It says community day, no school. So notice there's no school on a Monday. On Tuesday, the student comes in at 10 a.m. and goes till 2:30. On Wednesday, 8:15 to 2:30. On Thursday, they start at 8 a.m. with a volunteer experience to 2:30. And then Friday is 8:15 to 2:30 again. And notice they've got community awareness outings. Um, they've got a dog bone school business, so they've got a school business going on. Um, They've got something in Nicollet College, Jumpstart. So there's a number of different programs going on in this particular student who is preparing to graduate and move on to employment, living in a duplex next to the family and being active in the community. So that's student A. Student B is 19, has many outside agency supports with braided funding in their schedule, and the student plans to attend Project Search. So notice no school on Monday, no school services work with an outside agency on Wednesday, as well as Friday. No school services outside work with an outside agency. So they only attend the 18 to 21 programming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this is something really important for families to understand, that depending upon the student's needs, I can provide them examples of what this could look like and help them identify. So, what do you see your child or young adult, I should say, doing? All right. Any questions about those two items, those two scenarios that I just shared? All right. I don't see any questions. So we're going to move on to the last slide that I have here about scenarios. So, this scenario, the first one is the parent is wondering how the post secondary transition plan, that PTP, can be more relevant to what her daughter's strengths and interests are. So, and that is as a result of a parent who got a copy of the PTP, is reading the PTP, excuse me, and says, "This doesn't sound like my daughter at all." Or they're questioning where they got these ideas when they talk about where what the type of career the student is interested in, for example, or if the student has expressed an interest to live independently or something like that. And it just seems so foreign or not, it just doesn't seem like their child. So I always go to parent input forms or other types of activities that a family could do to kind of get down on paper and to think about some specific questions about their child. Excuse me. Um, so that they have kind of a better idea, and it's not like all over the place. It's like a very structured and kind of, I get a really good picture of what they're envisioning. So we have the Student Snapshot and the My Snapshot. These are resources that WSPEI provided that we use for IEP meetings, but can definitely be used for PTP and for like as a transition planning assessment. So this is one of them. We also have a My Snapshot, which is for students to complete because we know student input is necessary for the development of a post-secondary transition plan. So this is one of those things that we use. I included the Wisconsin Transition app, and I know they're upgrading this, so it should be coming out soon. Um, but this is an excellent way for families to work through the 15 pages, the 15 steps, in order to then print out um, kind of a document that could be used in the discussion of the PTP planning process in that IEP. So this is another resource, and this is something that I typically will take families through. And then if families really want to know about different types of transition assessments, because sometimes I have some pretty savvy families that are like, I'll give you one example. My school for the last 2 years put in the transition assessment on the PTP that they talked to my child about their interest and strengths. And that was it. And they did that 2 years in a row. And so some parents are looking for something more. So that's where I take them out to the Transition Assessment Guide, which is developed by the Transition Improvement Grant. So this is TIG again, which is a partner at the Department of Public Instruction. And depending upon what parents are interested in, um, we can find the right assessment that they might be interested in reviewing. So types of assessments are here, and you'll see that as you go through this, it'll have a link. Let's see, where's my link? I'm trying to get down to the resource highlights. Oh, there we go. Okay. So if you go down here, there's some resource highlights, and I always go to the NTAC, and they've got some really wonderful information out here on transition assessments. So, so that's that. And then the last scenario that I'm just going to talk about is parent called with the following. We just had an IEP meeting, and the team told me that my son will be graduating this June as he has met all the credit requirements. I thought he could stay longer, and he's not ready for the real world. Help. And so I've gotten that phone call usually in the March, April, sometimes May. We get phone calls from parents saying, "Oh my gosh, the school says my child is graduating." And so it's panic mode because excuse me, parents weren't expecting that. And um they certainly don't oftentimes feel that their child is ready for the real world. So what I have here included is number one, a sample PTP, because it's always helpful to read through the child's PTP. So, and this one has examples in it, and it has links in it. So this is something that I will use with the parent, and we'll talk through it. Also the summary of performance, because if they're graduating, they need to do a summary of performance as well. But what's most important is I typically will share with them what DPI's guidance is. So DPI has a graduation update bulletin 10.08 that I have linked in here. And if you go to section 4, question 2, and this is quite lengthy. So I'm going to go down to section 4. That's the attachment 4 and 2, 3, 4. Here we go. So these are practices in graduation. So question 2 is, does a district need to continue to have the IEP team meet to go over the notice of graduation, or can just parents and the special ed director or teacher do so? The IEP team should review the IEP prior to graduation to determine whether the student will meet the district requirements for graduation and whether the IEP goals will be substantially completed prior to graduation. The district should provide the adult student or parent with a decision of the team. And when they say, and the IEP goals, so it's not just meeting requirements, graduation requirements for graduation. It's also substantially meeting those IEP goals, as well as when we take a look at the PTP, the post-secondary transition plan, have we done our due diligence in helping the student prepare as much as possible to be ready for the world of work, of going into education and training, of going into independent living? And so the PTP is part of that IEP that needs to be taken into consideration. So even though school districts have policies and guidelines that rule as to how decisions are made and how graduation is done, because we are a local control state, meaning school districts, they interpret the law at a local level, and there is guidance and rules that they have to follow, but oftentimes there's variations between how school districts approach things like graduation. So for a situation like this, going back and to the school district's policy is something that I teach families about in helping them navigate and figure out what their next steps are. But number 2, if somebody says on the IEP team, if a parent is being told your son is out of here, you're done, she's done, going back to the table and saying, so show me what you've done in order to prepare my child for the rest of for the adult world, because it's not uncommon for students when they transition into a program or into staying another year or two to finish out some transition planning goals. It's not unusual that there's no reading or math classes being done anymore, because the focus is on independent living, it's on work ready skills, it's on it might even have something to do with training and education and things like that. So at any rate, that's the resource that I would use. So I just included that bulletin because I wanted people to be aware of that. So, and ultimately, the key to success is partnership, bringing it all back. That number 1, families need to have the confidence, the capabilities, the cognition, and the connections. They need to build that up in order to be effective partners. But that partnership at the IEP table is all about us being able to communicate to one another, to collaborate, and that collaboration is not only between the families and the student and the school, but also the collaboration with any other adult agencies that might be involved, like DVR. That we all have mutual goals and that the goals that we develop, whether they're IEP goals or post-secondary transition planning goals, that we all agree that we're working towards it. And it's all about education. Ultimately, the student and their education and their success, but also helping families to feel like they've got the knowledge and that they can share that and educate educators about what their hopes and dreams are and how they'd like to support their child. So that is that. So I'm wondering if there are any questions or any scenarios somebody wants to throw out there, or if anyone has
Ooh,
examples to
that
share.
sounds like try to stump Cheri. I love this game. Try to
No.
stump Cheri with a transition scenario. This is one of my favorite games, Cheri. Thank you so much for the play today. So everybody, feel free to, seriously, any questions, comments, the things that you see out there that maybe WSPEI can help take into consideration and could help, connect with parents around. I know that question about parents being surprised at IEP meetings is very real.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
and, understanding and at an earlier meeting, just trying to help schools understand that the earlier they can do planning for the post-secondary, the better, is talking about what are those IEP goals? What does it look like when they're completed? So
Hmm.
that it's not just, oh, well, look, we have all of the credits. Let's go. Along with the fact that that beyond 18 programming can be used
Yep.
to also enhance the learning so that if they weren't able to do that third math course for whatever reason, a hospital stay, something else
Hmm.
happened, that can also be part of that beyond 18 programming.
Yep.
So it's very much should be focused on what does the student, what supports, what does the student need to accomplish those goals that the team set out. And by that point, hopefully the student is part of that IEP team as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's hope so. Yeah. So, all right.
All right, any questions, comments? Nobody go anywhere. Oh, shoot, somebody already went somewhere.
Oh.
Um, I pulled it up. I swear I did. Where is it? Where did it go? No, no. There it is. Okay. So
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I appreciate everyone for who came today, for being in the audience, and for allowing me to come and speak about WSPEI and a couple of scenarios that I know we've had experience with families that are pretty frequent with our experience. So,
Yeah, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate having what it is, someone who has a group that has a focus on family engagement,
mhm,
because education has to be done with that partnership with family, student, and schools to be the most successful. So that you focus on that is fantastic. I have remembered to put the link in the chat, so please feel free to go do a little bit of feedback for us. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. Cheri, thank you so very much. Have a great
thanks,
rest of
Jim.
your afternoon.
Yep, you too.